There you go.
This meeting is
All right.
recorded.
Okay. Mike, you want to share?
Yes, I should.
Yeah.
I should have.
Well, good morning, everybody. Appreciate y'all showing up. We were just chatting here a little while before you folks came on, or some of you folks. Today's agenda is the second of four of summits that we've had this year. We got another one on Thursday. We'll talk about at the end. The idea for this one came from, we were just discussing that also. Being a fisherman, you'd like to go to different places, just like you would any other activity that you do outdoors. And I was searching around the DEC website in an old system that they have. They still have where you can dig up maps, hard copy maps, and print them and take them with you, and you can do stuff like that. But I ran across this DEC info locator, which I was familiar with, but didn't know you could use it for fishing and other recreational activities. And I found it very useful and kind of thought maybe people around the Genesee River watershed might be interested in it. And so I called around and ran across Scott, who is from the Albany area. And he's from DEC. I let him introduce himself and to talk about what what the DEC info locator does for you and what you might be able to use it for. So Scott, take it away.
Let me try to grab screen here. I cannot share while you. Oh, there we go.
Now you can.
Hold on just a second. Can you all now see the first slide? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. As George said, I'm Scott Donnelly. I work with the Digital Services Bureau in the Office of Communication Services at New York State DEC. Kathy Kittle, who runs the bureau, is the project originator for DEC Info Locator. She was in on the ground floor of it, so her familiarity is better. You're getting the B team, but I'll do my best. I'm going to move through this quickly. I'm going to be talking about an application that was, for me, a passion project. It was the reason I was brought to DEC after a 20-year career as a journalist. The project was sort of stalling. It wasn't moving along as they wanted. So my introduction to DEC was trying to get 15 different divisions to work together on this thing. So I got to know people pretty quick. And, coming from journalism, I saw the value of this product in a way I think was different from everybody at DEC, because I had been on the filing end of freedom of information requests for 20 years. So, and I had even done a project, I think George is familiar with Finch Paper up in Glens Falls. I've done a project on Speedy's discharges into the Hudson River, and the amount of paper that I ended up with just from that one facility was overwhelming. And it would have been awesome if I could have gotten that information without having to file all those freedom of information requests, which is sort of the goal of DEC Info Locator. Get the next slide here. So the goal was, as this shows, to create a user-friendly map interface that allows users to see information, not just about environmental quality work done by all of the programs that DEC has, but also outdoor activity on the same map. We are support. I have to give a shout out to New York State Information Technology Services, because I was not a geographic information science person when I came to DEC. I've learned everything in the trenches, and if it weren't for that team, this would not work. So they are actually currently working on something with the application that I'm hoping gets fixed before I demonstrate it later, but we'll see. So other than George, I want to know, has anybody used the application yet? Okay.
That doesn't sound like it.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I was on mute. I use it quite a bit for work. I've never used it for fishing before though.
Okay. What do you use it for?
Maybe when scoping out properties, just seeing what kinds of like remediation sites, PBS, bulk storage areas might be around.
Got it. Yeah. And how do you find it? Did it take a long time to get used to it? This is
No,
me.
I think it was pretty user intuitive.
Okay, great.
Well, I will say, I think it was user intuitive for somebody who is very comfortable using GIS, but I don't feel like it's much different than, you know, like using Google Maps or anything like that. I think for the most part, most people could figure it out.
That's really good here. We have a feedback survey online, and we've had some folks give harsher feedback. Let's just leave it at that. So I'm really happy to be talking to you guys. I saw on your website that your goal is to improve water quality to create environmental, recreational, and economic assets for your communities. And this application does both in the same place, water quality and recreation. So hopefully you'll get some use out of this after I show you how it works. I'm gonna start by giving an overview of the application through slides, but if there's time at the end, I'd like to do a demonstration and a Q&A. If I move too fast, slow me down. I will be happy to do that. As I said, this is a product that it sort of replaces a lot of other individual, more niche GIS maps that DEC had. Some of them have been decommissioned in the wake of DEC Infolocator, which is now our go-to marquee source of public information for DEC if you want it in a geospatial way. One of the maps that went away was the State Lands Interactive Mapper, which is also called SLIMS. If you were familiar with that, this replaced that product. That slide change? Did not. Okay. So as I said, the goal of DEC Infolocator is to make information about our many programs available to people based on where they live, play, or work. On the agency side, as I was saying earlier, this application can eliminate the need for citizens to file freedom of information requests. So on our side, certainly we will always respond to a freedom of information requests. We don't point people to the map and say, look there. That's not something we do. But a lot of people are finding what they're looking for without having to do that. So DEC's resources are less stressed as a result of that. And as I was telling George and Mike earlier, I came from a career in journalism for 20 years. And the other benefit to this that might not be obvious is if I'm doing research on a topic and I need to file a FOIL request, just having an idea of what DEC does using DEC Infolocator can help me craft a FOIL request in a way that'll get me what I want better or faster. So it's a great tool for the public, and it increases our transparency with the public. So we launched the new map with 50 interactive layers, and we have added more than 20 since then. As I said earlier, this combines both outdoor recreation and environmental quality in the same place. So at the top of this screen, you can see there are two tabs, one for outdoor activity and one for environmental quality. Just a little backstory for you. Let me switch slides here again. The environmental quality was really the impetus for it. DEC conceived this project as part of our response to the drinking water contamination problems in certain parts of the state. During that response effort, it became clear that we needed a better way for the public to see what we were doing about those issues and our efforts to rectify them. So the application, again, later expanded to include 15 other DEC divisions besides DOW and remediation, with a goal to bring as much of our publicly available information together in one place as possible. So you can switch between environmental quality and outdoor activity with the tabs at the top of the application. There's no reason, no restriction on mixing the two, and I'll get into that in a little bit later. But for instance, you can, let me get some examples up here. You can see that because we have over 75 layers, that scroll bar to the right of the legend window is necessary. You're going to need to scroll down to get to additional layers. Each of these tabs is individually expandable. Under outdoor activity, you'll see there are a lot of layers that you're going to need to use that scroll bar for. All of the recreational assets used to turn on with one click of the button. This slide is out of date. The problem we found was that because there are so many parking areas managed by DEC, that if you had those active with everything else, that it was just a giant blob of parking icons. So that's something that came out through for feedback surveys that we use to improve the map all the time. So that'll look a little bit different. And this is again showing the scroll bar. So under environmental quality, at the permits and registrations tab, which is the top tab under environmental quality, we have 24 individually interactive data layers that you can add to the map and remove from the map. That's up from 15 when we started. So we have 2 environmental cleanup layers individually activatable. One is remediation sites and the other is the actual boundaries of those remediation sites. Under environmental monitoring, we've expanded this as well. This is your water quality improvement priorities list. I hope I get that right. So whenever DEC monitors a stream for health of the water or the invertebrates or whatever they're testing for, you can see some of that information there. Public involvement, this includes everything from our zero emission vehicles grants program to, we've just added disadvantaged community, draft disadvantaged communities, polygons, and this is helpful for a lot of communities that are applying for grants through DEC. Some grants require knowing whether you're a draft DAC in order to apply for them. Environmentally sensitive areas, it's not wetlands per se. We have had a lot of requests to add wetlands to the map. The problem with that has just been a resource issue. The wetlands monitoring we have requires such constant update that we haven't been able to work that into the map yet, but we are responding to the requests for that. And then legal information, this is where you'll find hearings and orders on consent information. The orders on consent layer has also been problematic for us. The folks in Office of General Counsel are trying to get their entire staff to start using and filling out information about orders on consent in a geospatial way. And that's a technology shift that has not been smooth. So that layer is woefully out of date. We're aware of that. We're working on it now. So into the outdoor activity layer, we've got the land related activities, and I'll go through those in a bit, but we've got 13 individually activatable layers. I say individually activatable because some of them, when you click a button, you're actually adding more than one layer to the map at a time. We've got the campgrounds. This is one that's an example of this. The campgrounds layer, if you're zoomed out, you'll just see an icon. And then as you zoom in, you'll see the boundary for the campground and the campground roads. And then as you zoom in, you'll see the campsites. And if you go even further in, you'll see all the amenities. You'll see everything from water spigots to bathhouses. So that's an example of that. Trails, these are all individually activatable, from hiking to cross-country skiing to mountain biking to horse riding to the office. We have a designated trail for people with disabilities so they can use motorized vehicles in certain parts of the state, and you can add that layer to the map as well. And then under water related activities, I was just talking about this with George. Last spring, we added inland trout stream fishing layers, which, in addition to giving you individual regulations for reaches of individual streams, you can add parking areas and you can add polygons that show you where we have negotiated public fishing access rights with private landowners. So let's talk about some core functionality here. I'm a nuts and bolts guy, but for instance, here you can see that on the left of the application, you just click on an icon on a layer that you're interested in this case, air state facilities. And you're not going to see anything on the map right away. And that was a pain point for folks as we started out. It wasn't clear to them that you needed to zoom in on the map to get the layers to further activate. So we added later some message at the bottom of the layer telling people that they needed to do that. And that's simply because at the default extent or zoom level that the application opens with, if you added some of these layers, that would just be a mass of icons and you wouldn't really get any geospatial information. You just understand that there were a lot of those in the state. Here's an example. When you zoom in, you then see the air state facility, and you can see the location, obviously. And these icons do not scale with the zoom, which allows them to be readable at all extents, but also what it means is the further in you zoom, the more accurate the more precise that location becomes on the map. So you don't just, some people don't like the pan and zoom method of finding a location that they're interested in researching. We do have a search option, and I'll show you that in a bit, where you can look for locations by address, by the municipality name, if you know the village, town, or city, by the county, or even a place name. So you could, for instance, search Genesee, and it would give you locations in New York State. Unfortunately, it's this entire application is built on Esri's ArcGIS program. So it does show you locations outside of New York State. We can't turn that off as of now. We're working on that. So you have to find the ones in New York. It's a little bit wonky, but it's an out-of-the-box Esri functionality. And then once you find a location, clicking on the icon opens up a pop-up box. Wow, say that 10 times fast. And then within each pop-up box, you have more information about that site, and you can get deep links to interior databases on the dec.ny.gov public website. For instance, this one will take you directly to the database information for that location. And that's pretty significant because we've got something like 20,000 pages on dec.ny.gov with around 50,000 PDFs in there. So it's easy to get lost if you're looking for individual information for a location. This just gets you to it faster. I feel like I need a third screen. Yeah. So for instance, you might be able to access a facility permit, modifications to the permit. We just added the ability to see draft permits for wastewater facilities. And that's been very valuable to us. We have the environmental notice bulletin, which is a legally required document for us to put out every Wednesday. Which now in the past, we would say there's a draft permit hearing for this wastewater facility. And here's the page on the public website where you can go to get more information about it. Now we have link capabilities that will launch DEC Info Locator with a click, activate the wastewater facilities layer, and zoom in on that individual facility for you. So you can just click on it and see a direct link to the document folder where you can access the draft permit. Kind of neat functionality that I expect to expand as more DEC programs see the functionality of it. This is a slide that shows you what you could see if you activated the Title V air facility. These are the federal big facilities that are regulated by the EPA. We have the information, we administer the program on a state level, and you can see sort of a chart of pollutants and get individual links to more information about each facility. Here's an example of a permit you can access right. If you click on the link, you can go right to this permit for that facility as an example. Wastewater facilities, I was just talking about this. Notice that one of two notice at the top of the pop-up. If you click on a location and there's more than one layer active, and that location actually encompasses more than one aspect of that data, you can click on this arrow at the top right and cycle through different pop-ups for different locations at that space, in that space. And again, as I said, you can get right to the Speedies permit from the map. This is a look at the folder that will open if you click on that icon. And you know, this would probably be very difficult to find if you did not have, hey, I know there's a wastewater facility down the road. I want to go find the permit for it. And if you were just looking on the website, this would definitely take you longer to zero in on. And here's an example of what you'll get if you click on one of those folder options within that folder. And the folder structures vary from layer to layer, and it is some of us compromising with different DEC programs that have been keeping records a certain way for so long that changing everything they do in order to suit this application would have been prohibitive to us ever getting their information on the map. So some of them will take you to a place where you can search where the link takes you to the regional folder, and you can then find the name of the location that you're looking at on the map more easily that way. Some will have a different link for prior year reports. So it'll take you to an entire folder based on that facility for the previous year or years, depending on how far back we have digitized copies of those documents. And as you can imagine, with all this information on the same application, there are tools that can help you add context to a map that you've created by adding multiple layers to the application. Here's an example of if someone had added, for instance, municipal separate storm sewer system, which is MS4 permits, and multi-sector general permits to a map. What you have there is, so there are different types of assets on a GIS map. You have points, which all of these icons are. You have polygons, and then you have lines that can be activated. The streams are an example of a line. The polygons I'm going to show you here in a second. So this area measurement tool can be helpful. Are you guys seeing the entire? I'm not sure you're seeing the entire screen. Oh, yeah, nope, here we go. Sorry. So, you click on tools, you click measurement tool. There is a little bit of a help window when you click on tools to just give you an overview of what each one does. And then you have the option of measuring in any of these different units. And then you draw the polygon on the map. In this case, I drew a polygon right over an MS4 polygon on the map to just give me total acreage of that MS4 permit area. And this draws very similar, if you're familiar with Zillow, for instance, which lets you draw so it's a polygon where you set a point, drag to the next point, set a point, and then when you're done, you close the polygon by double clicking on the closing point. And then you can see that area that I drew on that map is 982.9 acres. So that can be helpful if you're examining areas of impact from permits. This one shows you how you can measure sort of straight line distance. This doesn't take into account topographical distance. We have to put that caveat on the outdoor layer descriptions, because if you're measuring the distance between 2 points and there's a mountain between them, this will not include that up and down that you're going to be hiking. But you can get the straight line distance, for instance, here between a wastewater facility or and the nearest body of water, for instance. And again, you can change the units of measurement down to the feet if you like. Is there a question? Okay. This is one of the neatest tools we have. It's the Near Me tool. If you've got a bunch of layers, I'm getting some feedback. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah.
Charlie, you're not coming through.
Okay.
Okay, try again. If you got a lot of layers on a map and you're particularly interested in a variety of programs DEC might have going on in a specific area, you can use the Near Me tool. Once you've got your layers added to the map, you select the Near Me tool, you set your radius. You can go up to 10 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles, sorry, I think. I can't see that. I'm looking between two screens. I got old eyes. So then once you click on the map basically draws a radius around the point you clicked of whatever sliding scale you selected. And that creates an interactive list of data to the left, and clicking on individual arrows drops down all of the facilities within that radius that are part of that layer. And then clicking on individual assets within each layer opens up the pop-up box and focuses on that icon for you. Kind of a neat way to drill down into a lot of layers if you've got a lot on the map. So under outdoor activity, let me catch up here. So using the outdoor recreation side of the map, not surprisingly, campers, hikers, anglers, hunters, and anybody who wants to do something outdoors on DEC managed lands can get direct links to the individual recreation pages on dec.ny.gov, which themselves can be hard to find if you're familiar with our website. The search does work on our website. We're in the process right now of migrating our website to a new content management system. So that's going to be a multi-year process though. As I said, 50,000, 20,000 pages is going to take a long time for us to get over to a new CMS. But so these rec pages, I'll show you an example here. We call them these are recreational pages. So from that pop-up on a specific DEC land, you can get directly to this page, which of course at the top shows you, and these are clickable by the way on our website, the various recreational activities that are permitted on that DEC managed land. Not all lands are created equal, as you guys know. You might not be able to snowmobile on some lands, and you certainly won't be able to hunt on some. So gets you to that information pretty quickly. This is one of our favorite layers, is the campgrounds layer. I'm going to try to show this layer later when we go into a demo part of this, but it's a little bit broken right now. The ITS team that I referenced earlier is working on fixing it. One of the cool things you can do with this layer when it's working properly is drill down and actually find an individual campsite and see an image of it.
Whoa.
And we've actually expanded this functionality now where you actually can see images of the bathhouses or the pavilions or the playgrounds, all of the amenities within a campsite or within a campground before you pick a campsite. And then from these pop-up boxes, from the campground pop-up box, you can go directly to the page for that campground.
Wow.
We use a third-party, Reserve America, to get people to the reservation, but you can at least do the research on DEC Info Locator. We don't have the transactional side of it happening there. But it's just a great way to plan a trip if you are interested in that sort of thing. And as I said earlier, there's no reason to be mutually exclusive about the outdoor activity versus the environmental quality tabs. You can use them together. This is an example of, a use case where maybe somebody isn't just interested in fishing in a body of water. So they want to have the boat trailer. I have a boat, I've got it on a trailer. I need a trailer launch location. I want information about that, but I may also want to know about the quality of the water there. So I can add the water body inventory priority water bodies list layer. I always get that wrong, I think, but I'll show it to you later. And I can see what the DEC knows about that body of water. We also, since this launched, added a seasonal layer for harmful algal blooms. So that layer turns on in around Memorial Day every year and then shuts off again about Columbus Day. Although last year, and we suspect it is climate change, it continued into November. We were still getting algal bloom reports into November last year. So you can get to a lot of information about how to use the application on our public website. I'll show you a little bit later. There's a prominent button right at the bottom of the home screen for DEC Info Locator. It'll take you to this page. And you can get to the application right from this page as well. Please, if you use it, take the feedback survey. We have used this feedback survey to make so many functionality changes to this application. It's not funny. I've got a list that's 2 pages long of the things that people pointed out about the application that we used to then make it better for them. We also have a page that specifically just focuses on the individual layers. It's an entire page that describes the layer and what you're going to get if you add that layer to the map, what you're going to have access to. And it also includes some information about how frequently that layer is updated and when it was last updated in many cases. A lot of our layers update daily. There's a daily script that runs, and Title V air permits is an example of that. It's automated. Every day you're seeing the latest information we have for that layer. So coming up, we are adding more data layers. We've got some coming up for waste tire handling facilities, I believe. And we're working on a couple of others. We're working on an inactive solid waste landfill facilities layer, so people can see where there used to be a landfill, but now there's, where there used to be a dump, but now there's a reclamation project or something like that going on. And if you have suggestions for layers, we'd love to hear them. But we're trying to get more and more programs on board with this. We do now have downloadable data sets and actually web services. This top link will take you to a page where you can see, right now, I think we're up to 50 of our DEC Info Locator layers, but you can, if you know GIS, you can actually consume those layers on your own GIS product as a web service, which means you don't have to update it. You're always going to be getting the updated information on your map. We added this functionality because a lot of municipalities were working on water quality projects, and they wanted to create their own maps just for their municipality and add their own data. They didn't want everything else DEC Info Locator offered them, but they needed some of it. So it's kind of neat. There's also downloadable data available on New York Open New York Data and on the New York State GIS Clearinghouse. But eventually, we think this is going to be the source of information for anybody who likes what they see on DEC Info Locator and would like to consume that in a maintenance-free way. So I'm going to switch gears here for a second. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take those, or I can go right into a demonstration if we have time.
Well, we certainly have time, so be interested in a demonstration. I don't have a question right now.
Okay. Let me see.
I had a couple questions, but I thought I'd wait until after your demo.
Okay. Can everybody see DEC Info Locator now?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to expand this a little bit to give us a little more room. That was function 11, by the way. It gets rid of the browser at the top and gives you more space to work with. If anybody, that's your tech tip for the day. So this is what you see when you open the application without a link. As I said earlier, we have deep link functionality where we can send you a link to this application with specific tabs open, or in some instances, including environmental cleanup, DEC lands, campgrounds, wastewater facilities, and orders on consent, we can send you a link that will open the application with the layer active and a specific location zoomed in on the map. So these are, as I said, looking over here, we've got the environmental quality tab, we've got the outdoor activity tab. And again, the scroll bar lets you move up and down. I'm going to just show you a little bit of why we have the extent activation set for these, because we do have a couple of layers that turn on at the default extent, specifically hunting, which was a layer we added after the initial launch. If I click on this layer, and this is another example of a layer that activates multiple layers with one click, I'm going to get every DEC land that we manage hunting on. I'm going to get the WMU, and I'm going to get the northern southern hunting zone line. This turns on statewide because we didn't want people to actually have to zoom in on the map. We wanted them to be able to see it, but I want to show you how, as I zoom in, and I'm zooming in with the scroll wheel, you can also use these buttons at the top to zoom in. Or if you want to get tricky with it, you can use the shift draw. So that's, I'm holding down the shift button and left clicking a square on the map and letting go, and it'll zoom in on that polygon. So now I can see the northern southern boundary line zone, the northern southern hunting zone line. This was, again, this was a direct result of feedback we got. Why can't we see the northern southern hunting zone line on the map? And then I can see individual hunting locations, and I can get more information on it by clicking on that. I go right to the rec page for that. And then, as I said, these icons at the top of the page are clickable. So I can go right to the hunting information. There's not a lot on this page, but I need to sit down on this. Let's go back to the map. So I just wanted to show, and then if we've got a couple of other buttons over here, the home screen will take you back to the default extent with all of your layers still active. This show active layers button lets you open a printable legend that shows you the layers you have active on a map. You can print your map individually as well from the tools screen. This is the measurement tool, and you can get some tips on how to use these right here in this help screen. But if you click on the measurement tool, you'll see this is where you can measure an area, you can measure straight line distance, or you can get a more precise latitude, longitude location for a specific point using this. But here's your print option. Oops. And then when you do this, you don't have to give it a title. You don't have to fill out the author information, and you don't have to change this if you just want a general size map. But when you click generate map, you're going to get a printable PDF. And the same thing will happen if you click on get printable legend. So, and then the reset button down here just resets everything. It eliminates all the data layers you have active on the map and resets the default to the environmental quality tab and the default extent of all of New York State. I'm going to zoom in on your folks area, show you. I love Letchworth, by the way. So I grew up in a little town. Doesn't even show up on this map. I grew up in Campbell, New York. So I spent a lot of time in the Southern Finger Lakes region, and I'm familiar with Letchworth. But for instance, if I wanted to your point, combining environmental quality and outdoor recreation on the same map, if I click on the water body inventory, priority water bodies list, and add that to the map, you'll see that there's a note here, and it says layer becomes visible when you zoom in on the map. So I've got to keep going until that turns off. And now I can see that the layers are being drawn on the map. It takes a little while with this layer because there are so many being added at the same time. We've got servers chugging away to draw it. This is faster on some days than others. But you can see now you've got all of these individually clickable streams that you can click on. Oh, that's a reservoir. Lakes and reservoirs. Did I hit the wrong spot? I hit the wrong spot.
Down.
It's down further?
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. I was. Oh, okay.
Down and to the right. I guess. There you go.
All right. So there's Letchworth. Anyway. So if I want to see information about the Genesee River upper mainstream, I can get the PWL ID information, which again, as I said earlier, could help me craft a freedom of information request. If I'm not seeing on DEC info locator what I'm looking for, there's no way we could possibly put all of the information DEC has on a map like this. I'm afraid we're sure going to push it to its limit, but we're not sure that could happen. So I couldn't issue.
So Scott, where you are right now, could you click on your fact sheet? I'd love to.
Yep. This is going to take you to sort of a generalized. It'll let you know when we last got there and give you some information about that location. For instance, some streams haven't monitoring every stream in the state is a monumental task. So you'll get everything we know about the stream. Let's put it that way here. And then another neat thing is if you're curious about what that all means, you can get to that layer information page that I talked about earlier, right from the top of a tab. If I click on this, I'm going to get a jump link that takes me to this part that tells me that, okay, this is only updated every 2 years, but it was last updated in December. So it gives you a sense for the quality of the data you're going to see in the layer. I'll also say another unintended benefit of DEC info locator since we launched it, and this was July of 2019, we've had citizens call in and say, hey, your information's wrong. You've got this in a wrong location. You've got a boundary that's not in the right spot. And that all comes to me. You can get to us from this help button in the upper right through contact us. And then you just click on email. And that'll open up an email directly to a general mailbox that's monitored by me and Kathy Kittle, my boss, so to speak. She hates the term boss, but I have to fix something here. I'm having a technical issue. There we go. No. Okay. Did that, so let's go back to the map here. So there's the water body priorities list. There's air quality monitoring sites. These are kind of neat if you've got one near you because they're real-time air quality monitoring. Let's see if I can find one. Where do we have them?
Up near Rochester, I'm sure. Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Right in Avon? No?
Where did I go? I'm going to turn off this layer. Here we go. So if I click on an air quality monitoring site, I can get the link directly to that facility and see in real time what it's reading as far as the current air quality index. Kind of neat. This is, one of the use cases we had for mixing outdoor recreation with environmental quality. If you were going for a hike in the Adirondacks, but you have asthma, then we have one of these sites near Piseco. So the Piseco Airport, which is right on the Northville Placid Trail, which I am a big fan of. It's one of the coolest, most remote trails you can hike in New York State. But you could see the air quality out there if you're worried about it. So also a valuable layer. And down here, you can see the harmful algal blooms reports layer. It's not active right now. And we say right here, this is available from late May through October. We don't want people thinking there are harmful algal blooms in December, but at the same time, it's got two aspects to it. It's got the currently reported algal bloom reports, and it gives you the ones that we saw last season. So you can sort of see maybe where there's a penchant for harmful algal blooms and where we've already got current algal blooms. Also a cool layer because this has the same image functionality that we have in the campgrounds layer, where you can actually see pictures that were taken of harmful algal blooms in those locations. So again, if I'm going for a hike with my dog and I'm going to $1 million beach to take them to Dog Beach. They've got a section just for pets there. Maybe I want to know before I go if there's any harmful algal blooms there. That part of the Lake George is more known for its E. coli outbreaks, but that's a work in progress as well. Public involvement, as I said, we just added the draft disadvantaged communities layer. We've got environmental justice grants available, environmental excellence awards. I found out doing a previous demonstration of this that my little town of Campbell is a climate smart community by doing this. So zero emission vehicle rebates, infrastructure, and the map is pretty resilient. I mean, you can use a check all option and add everything in the permits and registrations layer to the map if you wanted to. If I just want to know everything that's permitted and registered in my neighborhood, I can do that. I can then go to tools. I can select the near me tool, set a radius, and then click on my neighborhood. And what I'm going to get is this interactive list to the left of every asset that is within that radius. So if I want to know, drill down and see Title V air facilities, I expand that category and then I click on the individual location. Now there's so much on this map, you can't really tell, but this pop-up box has a little arrow pointing to that location. And then I can scroll down and access all the links to more information about that location. If I want to see, you've got a lot of wells out there. So within that 5 square mile radius, there are,
Holy mackerel.
wow.
Oh,
You have 252 permitted wells. This is a double category layer as well. You've got active layer wells and you've got the plugged wells in case you want to see those. And then clicking on the link will take you to the data we have. This is good. Again, drills into a section of dec.ny.gov that might be very difficult for you to find if you didn't have the geospatial link from Infolocator, and you can get more information about that individual well.
wow.
That's a fun layer out in Western New York.
Well, it used to be a lot of oils drilling around this neck of the woods.
But to give you an idea, again, we don't have the scalable icons on this map. It was gonna suck up too much bandwidth on the servers because each of these icons would have to draw again at a different size every time somebody zoomed. But the nice thing about the icons we have is they're always the same size. They're always the same amount of readable, and they're as precise as you want to zoom in on. So I can get pretty close to where that facility is by continuing to zoom in. So there you go. I'm going to reset this map because it's kind of a mess. And I want to show you under outdoor activity. So we, again, these inland trout stream fishing layers, this is a one-click activation. It's actually activating 6 different layers. And this is one of the few layers we have that turns on at the default extent for the state. So if I then zoom in on the map, because I'm more interested in DEC inland trout stream regulated, DEC regulated trout streams, inland trout streams in this area, I can just keep zooming in and I'll see that I've got a stream here. It's a stocked stream. I click on it and I can get information about the stream, the management category. I can get the regulations, if there are any special regulations, because there are. That's what the yellow icon means. So if I click on there, I'm going to get the special regulations. If you didn't see that, that's over in the legend. Additional regulations apply. And I can, if it's stocked, I can not only get what it's stocked with, but when. So kind of a neat layer. And then if I want to fish that stream, George and I were talking about this earlier, I can add trout stream fishing rights to this layer. You need to zoom in on this in order for it to activate. Actually, you don't. It's just that there's no negotiated public fishing rights on this stream, which is all that means. Let me find, oh, no, there are. They're just hard to see. So Now I can see those polygons, and then clicking on that stream access tells me that there's a public fishing rights access there. And then if I click on the trout stream map, I'm going to get more information about how to use those public fishing rights maps. This is a layer though, that at the request of the individual property owners shuts off at a zoomed in extent because they're approximate in their borders, and we didn't want anglers getting in fights with property owners over, look, I've zoomed in and I'm 20 feet onto your property, but this says I'm there. And so it shuts off at a certain extent, and you'll get a note here that says the layer will become visible again when you zoom out. But the bottom line is, you know, you've got a road here and public fishing rights access along that stream, a couple parking areas that are managed by DEC that you can get to. This has multiple, this is an example of when you have multiple layers that are active on the map for a location, you're going to get this scroll button at the top of the page. And you'll be able to scroll through every pop-up for every layer that is active for the location you clicked on.
Scott, this is a good place to, I have a question about this one. This is Waka Creek Park. There is public access there. It's not DEC because it's a county park, I think, right, Pete?
Yep.
Right at the far right there, but on Union Street or whatever that is. There's parking.
The DEC negotiated this with the county or with,
Right. But
the
you can actually
municipality.
park there though.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, there's
All right.
parking there. And I wonder how many other things like that there are that might be added to the map. Because that's where you get in. That's one of the,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another one, Pete. Is there another one?
Not officially.
No. Okay. So that's the one. That's the, but if you wanted to fish that, that's where you'd have to park, although you can park along the road, but
Yeah,
you
so
can actually,
one of the limitations is it is DEC info locator,
Right,
and
yep.
at the outset the goal was to only include information that we control
right.
and
Okay.
that we update. So you're not going to, and we've been taken to task for this because one of the things you won't see on DEC info locator is state parks.
Oh,
Why can't you got an outdoor activity layer? Why can't I pull up Letchworth Park and see the parking areas and the amenities there? It's because it's not we don't own that data. We can't update that data. And we have no control over it. So
Okay.
that's an unfortunate drawback. But we are looking at possible ways to break down those silos a bit, but it comes with challenges and it comes with issues.
Same is true of the Petton Street dock. It's not on there either.
Is that municipality owned?
Yeah.
So one of the things you can sometimes do is add boat launches. This layer is an example of one where we did break down silos. We actually included on the boat launches layer municipality managed boat launches, and that was monumental because and then if you open these pop-ups, you'll see whether we manage it or whether a municipality manages it. So it's sort of a use case for doing that. Fishing piers and platforms. I guess there's not much help there.
No.
Yeah, so we don't manage whatever assets are available to anglers in this location, and that's that is a limitation.
Right. Okay.
So if there's a municipally operated dock that doesn't show up here, we should tell you about it?
Feel free to, but without, again, breaking down those silos, we're still not gonna be able to add it to DEC info locator. There are so many people we have to have in the room to do that, and we've asked for it, but it has not been the top of the list for a lot of strained organizations within the state, I'm afraid.
Yep.
So
Trying to
Scott,
find it. So here's an example of one that's managed. This is a municipal trailer launch, for instance. And if you click on the link, you can go to the boat launch webpage. You have to zoom down to this one. It's called the Erie Canal. So here's the information, and you can get The town of Parrington manages that, and you can get the Google Maps, ironically, a Google Maps lat long on it if you want, and you can get some information about capacity there right from the map.
So Scott, hi, this is Wayne Howard, and I developed our interactive map on our website, in our Blue Way interactive map.
Okay.
And I've used some of your web services before. And so kind of along our discussion, if we wanted to add a layer or several layers that you provide to our own maps, we could probably put some additional information that pertains to what we want to do, like the types of areas that you're not able to include. So I just want to throw that out there. And it's clear to me, it looks like I use ArcGIS Online, and it looks like you're using a tool set. Is this created in our portal or something like that?
Yes, that's
right. Right. So portal is a very similar to ArcGIS Online, but it's housed with the DEC. So you could see some of a lot of it looks different, but it's using a lot of the same tools that we have access to. So anyway, this is great. I hadn't seen this before either. So I'm fantastic. Thanks for sharing this with us, Scott.
Sure.
Scott, if we do know of an asset like a municipally owned dock that does not appear here, what should we do?
I believe we broke down the silos on the boat launches, and that might be different than docks.
Well, boat launch in that I misspoke.
Okay, if you know of a municipally owned boat launch, let me know. And again, just you can, I'll put up my email here. Again, you can email me directly and I'll look into it. We use an annually produced New York State boat launch guide that is sort of a comprehensive publication that I'm not 100% sure who puts together, but we used that. We tapped into that to help try to include as many of those municipally run boat launches as possible. And we'll certainly try to get it included going forward, but it would require us reaching out and finding out, are you in this guide? Why are you okay with us sharing this on DEC Info Locator? And then trying to figure out, what's the longevity of that? Because we wouldn't want to have a boat launch added to DEC Info Locator this year that gets closed down or removed next year, and then we don't know about it. So we're still telling people to drive to a place with their trailered boats. So it gets a little problematic, which is, again, back to the reason we wanted DEC Info Locator to include information we control.
Yeah.
Now, are these only trailered facilities?
No, you can, let me escape out of this.
You look like some of them were hand launched.
Yep. When you activate under outdoor activity, you go to water related activities and you go down to boat launch sites. Yeah. If you click on this, we've got an icon for hand launches and an icon for trailer launches. And you should see the difference. We're working on an issue right now where in campgrounds, the only icon that for some reason keeps showing up is the trailer launch, even though when you click on it, it says hand launch. But when you click on it, you'll get some information about how many cars can park there and a little information about the quality of the launch. And
everything in the city of Rochester, the Waterways Center, the Petton Street operation, the new one on right below the 490 bridge, none of those are on those. So we'll have to let you know about that.
Okay. So this is a boat launch site that's managed by the Canal Corporation, for instance, not us. It's a hand launch. So we will do everything we can to get this as accurate as possible within the confines of our mission statement, which is to make sure that we know how that data, where it comes from and how it's going to be updated. So.
Good.
What else can I show you? Any other questions?
Maybe as an example, show how you went over quickly how to print a map. Say you decided you zeroed in on an area.
Sure.
You had a boat launch and and you wanted to take a trip, and you could see where the two boat launches are.
Yep. I didn't talk about the reference layers. We've got a lot of them here. And I talked about the blue lines earlier. We've actually got the Adirondack and the Catskill blue lines. You can turn on maps that go all the way down to the tax parcel. And this is not individually identifiable tax parcel information. You're just going to get the tax map ID. Very valuable to certain people who use this. And we've heard from even real estate folks saying, hey, thank you for that. So let's add some boat launches inside the Adirondack Park. Zero in on an area I'm going to be moving to shortly. I love this part of the state.
Yeah.
So for instance, if I want to print this information, you get it onto your map the way you want it, and then you go to tools and you click print. I'm going to give it a and then I'm going to click on generate map. And as I said, this creates a PDF, a printable PDF of the map as it is on your, so if I scroll down a little bit, I'll see that the pop-up actually is not there, but I can see a topographical map with the boat launch on it. If I wanted to have more precise information, I could zoom in further and print that map instead.
Mhm.
If I go back here, and here's the legend that you can also print out to go with your map. But if I wanted to get more precise with this, I could print out a further out map and then click in and get an even more accurate map. I don't think that's actually where the boat launch is for Million Dollar Beach. I think it's over here. But it's where you're going to park for sure.
Yeah.
And we do have, we've got some other options up here under the base map. Esri controls the base map, and that's been a little bit embarrassing because they actually have the wrong peak altitude for Mount Marcy. which has been pointed out to us a couple of times, and I've sent emails to Esri, and it just goes off into the ether. We don't control what's on these base maps. That's out of the box, Esri. But you could, for instance, go to you can add a satellite view with labels if you prefer. You can add, if you've got some vision concerns, you can grayscale it. Aerial, I'm not 100% sure. I think this is actually taken by airplanes with LiDAR. I don't know what the difference is on these. And again, I'm an ex-journalist. I'm not a GIS wonk, but it's still pretty fun to play with these things if you want to change your base map. The default's topographical.
So I was thinking about that, Scott, when you were talking about some of the municipal launches and et cetera that aren't currently listed on there. Someone could easily just switch to a different base map if they knew it was there, and you could look to see where it is visually. So
I think people are going to use Google Maps for that. The other thing is they have better satellite imagery because they're Google. But you can get pretty close with this, yeah.
Right. I'm forever amazed at people that work in the Esri world that keep linking to Google for what they're looking to do. But that Esri has included a lot of additional base maps in the last year, a couple of year or two, that have made it more and more useful. So.
What else can I show you? Example of, so we have added several new layers already this year, including household hazardous waste collection facilities, vehicle dismantling facilities.
Those are the ones that operate legally, right?
Well, yeah, if you know of one, well, that's another thing. You know, citizens are using this and they're saying, I got a dry cleaner down the street. It's not showing up on your map as a permitted air facility. What's going on? Well,
Yeah.
let us find out. So
Yeah.
a lot of benefits to making this information as publicly available as possible. You got a lot of dams on here. If you wanted to get information about a dam on a particular river, you can get to the deep link. Well, actually, it only goes to the dam safety page. Some of them have links to individual files for them, but you could also, you know, if you wanted to measure the distance this dam is from the lake using the measure tool, we'll do line distance measurement. So this functions sort of similarly to Zillow. You put a point on the map. Once you select the distance. And then you can make other points along the map to approximate distance. And I'm not being completely accurate here. You can get as accurate as you want, I suppose. You can see that that's double click here to end that, and that's about 2 miles. So that dam's around 2 miles upstream. Again, not accounting for elevation changes. So, and the polygon works very similarly. If I wanted to measure the acreage of a lake, for instance, or a water body, you can activate the, first I'm going to clear results, activate the, and then so you put a point on the map and the polygon starts drawing very similarly to how Zillow does it. When you get done, you double click the endpoint and you can see this area in acres, or you can then change it to square miles or square feet. That's a lot of square feet. So a little bit about how the tools work. Anything else I can share with you? I think we're running out of time, aren't we?
Yeah, well, it's good though. We've had a interactive map on our site, a general one with locations of wastewater treatment plants and boat launch sites and stuff like that. And then Wayne, who's on here, he's asked a few questions. We built one just for hand carry boat launches for the whole river, which it includes some that you don't, because they're not DEC, a lot of them aren't DEC sites. And we did some of the similar things with pictures, like you had of the boat launch site. You can click in there and do all that kind of stuff, that same kind of functionality that Wayne provided us there. So that comes in handy. The fishing part, I think, is something I'm not sure, again, how many people knew about that. I mean, I've talked to a few of my friends and they didn't know about it. So I think a little bit more advertising can get people out there. So
when we added that layer, it was at the start of the trout fishing season last spring, and we put out press releases and we did outreach. The fisheries department actually did their own web page on the site and included information in the ENB, the environmental notice bulletin, I believe. So, you know, we do what we can. We can't force journalists to pick this stuff up. I'm on the other side of that wall now. So if you get a chance, check out our help information. If I go to info locator, you know, we've got the feedback survey too, but we've got multiple ways of helping people use the map, including a video, the fact sheet, a more detailed help document, and then a document to help people with the mobile, using this on mobile. But I will warn you, the interface on a device that's smaller than a tablet is very difficult. We are aware of that. We are exploring a request for proposals to create a standalone mobile application, focusing specifically on outdoor recreation, but including some of the environmental quality stuff, because we found it's the outdoors folk who typically they're using DC Info Locator to plan a trip, but they're doing it at a time when they don't really have time to dig through all the help documentation or get used to DC Info Locator. Plus, our goals for the mobile application are to be able to download a map that you create, whether it's a parking area and a trail and a lean-to on a map, but download that for offline use so that you would then still be able to go to a place without any Wi-Fi or without any cellular signal and see your location on that map.
Yeah.
So that's all part of our plan for improving the mobile use of the map, but it's a little bit up in the air right now.
Yeah.
And Scott, I echo some of the challenges that I've encountered creating this. It's getting easier and easier all the time, but definitely mobile is a big challenge to make it, even if it's available, to make it easier. But that being said, again, if there's no way I could, unless I had, if they expanded the number of hours in the day, maybe then I could duplicate what you're doing here. But George and Mike and anyone, if there's particular layers that they've made publicly available on their web server, I can add some layers that pull some of it in. George, you mentioned some of the stuff that we had up that we've added earlier. The cool thing with it being on a web server is that it's automatically updated. Whenever they update that layer, it will show up there again. So we could replace some of the layers that we have in we have another general information map that we could update using some of these things. And that way we have the ability, if we want to add a municipal launch that's not there, at least those who are using our site for the particular purposes that they do, that we would still have the best of both worlds. But I'm thinking we should also direct people to the DEC site for instead of trying to recreate the wheel. So it's kind of use a mix of both worlds is what I'm saying. So
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, we'll have to take a closer look at it. Okay, well, Scott, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
I'm good. I've taken a lot of your time. So
No,
thank
that's
you very
fine.
much for taking the time to learn about DC Info Locator. As I said, it's a passion project for me. I see, I left a career where I was, I saw myself on the front lines in this battle for our environment. And I moved over to a place where I don't think there's going to be a bigger story to tell.
Right.
In the history of our planet than the stuff that we're trying to fix and make people aware of.
Right.
So thank you for the
Yeah.
opportunity.
I think one of the things I'm walking away with here is the fact that the audience for this is well beyond anything that I originally thought about in terms of, we were interested in boat launches. We have a certainly interest in wastewater treatment plants and where they are and how they're permitted. And that's really kind of where we were focusing in. And maybe CAFOs also, that kind of things, because they're directly related to water quality issues or reuse of the river. But there's so many other aspects to this that other people, other than those who might be interested in water quality or recreation, could get use out of this. And I'm sure it's so wide open that there's opportunity there. And maybe we ought to think about figuring out how to share this more ourselves. So
Yeah.
CAFOs are coming to DC Info Locator, by the way.
they are.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
It was pretty controversial when the app launched, and it was supposed to be part of the initial product, but there was a lot of hand wringing and behind the scenes questions about the quality of the data and all that. So now we're whipping that into shape, and we're planning to add CAFOs to the application.
Good.
Hopefully by the end of the year.
That highlights another thing, that when you put it up here, it does cause people to suddenly look at stuff and say, is the data good?
Yes, and as I said,
Um,
we've had people call our data into question and say, hey, you need to fix this. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, cool. Yep. Well, a lot to do, but a lot you've accomplished. I really appreciate you taking the time and we'll
Happy to.
probably keep in touch.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks again.
Good
Have a
job.
good day, everybody.
Yep, bye.
Thank you so much.
Oh, wait, maybe Mike got to share our next, oh, everybody gone?
Well, we aren't sharing with too many people who aren't us chickens.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's
Yeah, our
The
next
next one's Thursday, right?
Thursday, yeah.
that's Thursday. Yep.
Yeah, that one, we've got 47 people signed up as of yesterday, so I think we'll have a few more people online that day. I'm still surprised how few we did get signed up here.
Yeah,
And
I'm
part of that,
very surprised.
Part of it may be, I thought about it too late, but the advertising and the description I wrote was certainly not adequate. And maybe we want to think about redoing this or just launching it and explaining it to people, let them look at view this recording
Mhm.
and try to paint a different picture about it. So maybe that's something we need to think about.
And I hope to be with you on Thursday. It's my students' final presentation for their project that day. So it's going to depend on how much they need me, I think. But,
Yep.
but
I
if
don't
not,
know,
if I'm
Wayne,
not
you
here, I'll
gotta get
watch the recording.
You got to get your priorities in order.
Okay. Well, thanks, you guys. Thanks, everybody.
All right, George. Thank you.
Hang on, George.
I
Don't,
will. Yeah,
Go
I'll wait.
away.
I'll
Hey,
wait.
George, can I ask you a quick question before I go?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Are you so did you do a laptop upgrade yet, or are you still working on that?
Well, I got it all, the paperwork with the guy, not paperwork, but the online order. And then I told him, well, gee, we're a not-for-profit. Can I get the, without having to pay income or, sales tax? And he said, yeah, just send me the information. So I sent it to him. That was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I just sent him a note yesterday saying, where are you?
Well, the reason I ask is if you wanted some help setting it up, again, my last class is on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'd have a little more time to help you than
Yeah.
I've had
Well,
recently.
I'm going to need your help, certainly.
I will be leaving for Maine. I'm taking a couple students to Maine for several weeks, starting in mid-June. So
Okay.
Where are
hopefully,
you going, Wayne?
we're doing a project with it's with their forestry program in the University of Maine.
No.
And so in a couple of locations around Bangor down to Acadia and up to Fort Kent. And so I'm going to be doing some precision data collection, drone collection, and analyzing the data. So they're going to be training as well as we're going to be training students on some advanced data collection. So it's going to be really cool. But
I'm going to be in Portland and I don't know, the 12th through the 16th or so. What?
of June?
That's too far south for you.
Of June?
Of June. Yeah.
Okay. We might pass you somewhere in the road.
Somewhere on the I had a quick question to ask George too, and then I'll get off.
All right. Well, have a good day, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Wayne. Take
By
care.
the way, George, do you have, as I recall, there were some pictures or drawings of the Avon and Geneseo access point plans?
Yep.
Can you send those to me?
Yep. Let me get a,
Because I've got to sit
Notepad
down and
here.
think about what I'm going to say Thursday a week.
okay.
All right.
I will.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
See you guys.
Yep. See ya. Bye.
I got to stop sharing first. There we go.
Okay, Pete. I wanted to talk to you. I got this New York State Sea grant opportunity that came out. It's due July 1st. I don't know if you've looked at it.
no, I haven't.
Well, it's
Was
got very.
I supposed to?
Oh, no. You can if you want, but I wanted to talk to you about it because it's very, first of all, they upped the amount that they give from 20,000 to 50,000 maximum. But it has to be something that was specifically identified in a locally supported plan. So you can't use the state, 9-element plan to say this project was something. You had to have something that was identified by a local group that said, we want to fix this. So I immediately thought of you guys, Awaka Creek, and you have a plan that was developed by a grant, and there's a section in it. And I also wanted to find something that fit with something that we've been wanting to do, but don't have the money for. And the one item was, I don't know what page it's on, but it says it's the highest top 5 overall priorities. And it says restore very severe stream bank segments using ecologically based stream restoration. As you know, those big tables that you guys have, this
Yeah,
table,
right.
these tables here.
Yeah,
Well, so that fits the criteria that's locally generated plan. Now they have that. My interest, and Scott and I have been talking, we've talked about an operations committee, was try to find some less expensive, less intrusive ways to restore or protect stream banks. And we got into that pretty heavy when we did the Babbitt farm, because they don't have access to equipment and stuff. So they're trying to think of ways of things that they could do that could be done with locally sourced materials or even site sourced materials and minimum equipment to provide. We were only looking for a temporary thing, but we also talked about just developing techniques that could be used to a little bit easier than what trying to do tow wood construction and having a big excavator and doing all that work at $200 a foot. And so Scott and I have been kicking around, and we talked about this, having a charrette where we would try to bring some people together who know something about this subject, and with the idea that we want to be able to come up with ways to either prevent or stop erosion and restore a bank to some way without having to get into the big heavy duty stuff that we've been involved with so far.
without changing the slope.
Yeah, trying to avoid doing those kinds of things. And that's what we were looking at Babbitt Farm. So I was thinking of a project that would get a team together of people, a wide team, soil and water people, Gary Copeland, Terry Schmidt, because he has landscaping background, a couple of landowners and whatever, to get a bunch of folks together to have a charrette at a location of where the kind of areas that we want to do projects in, and actually install the top 3 or 4 things that we came up with in that charrette at those locations of interest to wherever we did the work. And so I thought, would you be interested in participating as your watershed committee to try to figure something like that out? I didn't want to go too far with trying to write something up if you weren't interested.
I'd have to check with some of them to begin with, because I'm not the one that's, we didn't, if I could have got, I didn't see the note until after yesterday. So there was no time to meet before we had our meeting last night. So it sounds like you mean to get involved with the charrette, or are you talking about specific projects?
Well, a charrette that would eventually have in mind specific locations and identify specific potential fixes to try, and then actually install them. So it kind of combines the two things together. It would actually implement something. We might decide that we're only going to do one location. We're going to use 3 different techniques, or 3 different locations and 3 different techniques. I don't really know where it's going to end up. But the idea is that it would all come out of whatever the group agreed to. But the primary decider has got to be, your watershed committee.
Right, but it also has to be within the watershed.
Yeah, without doubt.
Okay. So we wouldn't be. uh, That means we'd have to have some pick out specific area someplace that, or couples, to see if we could actually get the property owners involved and stuff. I mean,
Right.
we really don't have, there are plans to do certain things even on Marine's property, but that's through Monroe County Soil and Water. So
Well, but they would participate in that, and we would just have this project would provide the funding to be able to test out something and actually implement something. It's not a lot of money, so you can't do very much, but you might be able.
right. But it sounds like promising to narrow in, the sheets and the whole matrix associated with all the different kinds of things, practices and recommendations and whatever that's in those tables really aren't specific projects yet. I mean, you basically, but it gives you all the components of what you're going to be
Right. Yeah, it said
looking at.
yeah, and that would have to happen before you head to charrette. This kind of project, I think you get the money would award is like in August, and you have until December of the next year to do it. So I would think over the winter and early spring, you'd come up with do the charrette, or I don't know if a charrette's the right word yet, some kind of design development brainstorming kind of activity where we get enough diverse players involved to try to come up with ways that could work. So, and we're interested in things that can be implemented on site and maybe even by the landowner with limited equipment. That the equipment ends up being a problem. That Babbitt Farm thing, fortunately, Charlie Bears was willing to donate the use of one of his excavators to do something. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to do anything there because they don't have excavators. They don't have any kind of equipment like that. So, but now you're talking about a different scale on Awaka Creek.
Yeah,
Certainly,
yeah.
it's not as big.
We have I think there may be I'm gonna have to, you're gonna have to give me a couple days or several days.
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry.
Well, it's due July 1st, right?
Yeah,
You
so
said-
if we get a decision made by the end of the month, I got plenty of time. I'm gonna still keep working on it because you're gonna probably want a description of what I'm thinking about.
Yes, and but I think I'd like to move out of the general lower part of the river, but we really know more about the lower part of the river, or I mean the creek.
Right.
So there is a potential, in addition to, I think there's a possibility that a pretty good size section of the creek within the museum's property.
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote that down because that's where you did the
has
planning.
been the side of the creek that's the museum property that's the Marine and Steve live,
Right.
has been the property it was related, that side was somewhat related to museum property on the other, on the where the museum is.
Right.
But since then, they've taken over the developmental rights on both sides of the creek.
Oh,
So there's a lot of opportunity there to make improvements because there's not much forested area.
Right.
because of because the ash tree problem.
Right. Yep.
So, but it's something that would, I think we were thinking about talking to the museum about, and they're aware that we would do. So that's a possibility, you know,
Right.
and that would, then that would give you enough area to, you know, think about, you know.
Yeah.
And you'd have to, definitely a partner there is going to be would be the Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
May
wrote,
be able to tie into what their plans are anyway.
yep.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll check with Maureen and who's recovering from COVID and a shoulder surgery. So
Oh, boy. Geez.
she's got
So-
things that she's thinking about. Other
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah. Well, we got time. Actually, I got to get it done before July 1st because I'm the last week in June and the first week in July, I won't be here.
Well, I think I can get something together to at least get our buy-in to try to be involved with it.
Right. Well, all the decision making
actually-
is going to be made by that group with primary emphasis with soil and water and you guys.
Right.
You know, so I just wanted to try to facilitate which,
You got to have
development-
somebody that's got a plan that.
yeah, well, that's the key part. You can't start without that. So you're the only one in the watershed other than Black Creek, but nobody's doing anything at Black Creek. So I thought you're more active. I know that I immediately thought of the museum and also, you know, Maureen spot there too as ones that were on the creek. I don't know what the erosion issues there, but I imagine there are.
Yeah, it's definitely not the scale that we have in Allegheny County, but
No,
there's a lot of flooding occurs there on a regular basis.
right,
So you get a lot of,
sure,
but you also have the potential of making, you know, the active area of the creek. You can, there's not any active farmland there.
yeah,
So you're not constrained by those concerns.
right,
So I think you have a lot more potential of trying different things.
sure.
And one of well, I don't want to get into details, but one of the things that I'd like to, I have some, I don't know if you've heard of the Shroud Water Research Center down in Pennsylvania. It's
No,
well, they've been doing riparian plantings and stuff for years. And they came up with a technique of using fencing, but short fencing that would be like 2 rows of fencing separated by about 5 feet,
what kind of
10
fencing?
feet,
Yeah,
just regular. It would be, you know, like metal fencing with,
yeah. Like a-
but you're not talking about high structures.
right,
What you're trying to do is put 2 rows in so that the distance between the fences that forms the 2-row fencing boundary around your planting area so that the deer can't get in,
right,
can't jump over, even though the fence is not very high, maybe 4 feet or 5. You can, because they can't jump over one of them
yeah,
because there's another one there.
right,
It's less expensive to do that. But you can sort of put that on the outside of the planting area on the outside of, away from the creek, and have the creek bank be the other boundary. And you can keep I think your possibility of having the deer excluded is a lot better.
right.
Anyway, that was,
Yeah. No, I'm familiar with that technique. I've read about that. Okay, well,
All right, let me,
that's the
I think
idea.
we're in.
Okay,
But I still got to get the rest of the crew
Right.
and
well, I'll proceed to try to come up with like a one-page summary, because I'm gonna need that anyway. Because we gotta, if we're gonna get other people involved. One of the things I was wondering about is what you did, 2 years ago or whenever it was in Awaka Creek Park with US Fish and Wildlife. Those are some of the kinds of things I was thinking about that. I mean, that was geared towards habitat, but that could also be stream bank protection activity also.
yes.
Yeah.
And it probably would work better in that area as opposed to Oaxaca Creek Park because
Yeah,
the park, because the bedrock isn't as close to the
right.
surface.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm optimistic that if we got a very diverse group of people together, that we could come up with things that none of us thought of on our own that might be possible. And the idea is to be able to actually field test them. Install whatever it is the group comes up with. It only going to end up with about $35,000 to do that, but maybe we could get some people to donate their services and pay for the rest. I think we could get something done. So I will keep going on it, knowing that you're interested, and we'll see if we can get something nailed down by the end of the month with you on your side of it. And then I can proceed further with looking at how difficult it'll be to submit the project. So usually Sea Grant's not too hard.
Is there a title for this beyond
Yeah.
Sea Grant?
Yeah, it was on the environmental, one of the bulletins that DEC says, but it's called New York Sea Grant Great Lakes Basin Small Grants Program.
Shannon probably sent it out, right?
Who?
Maybe Shannon probably said.
It came a lot of
That
different
is-
ways. Yeah, it came different ways. The thing that caught my eye is that they changed. First of all, they haven't had it. This is the first time in 2 years, I think, that they've had it. And they upped the amount of money. And then they focused it on locally supported plans. So I thought that was interesting. And I thought that,
Well, that would be one, that would definitely, that's why we've got the watershed management. That's why you're supposed to have a watershed management plan, so you can.
right. Yep.
And it's also, we're also, Black Creek and Oaxaca Creek were also highlighted as project areas for the Great Lakes Action Agenda or
Yep.
Lake Ontario Action Agenda. So
Yep. Oh, yeah,
that-
no, they want you to do that too. So yes, that helps a lot. So I think it lines up real nice. So it gives us a lot of boxes to tick. Plus it satisfies something that we're interested in, is trying to come up with stream bank protection or restoration techniques that don't require, the kind of stuff that we've been doing, because we're never going to get them done. Can't get them all financed. And if we can come up with something that works for the landowner, you never know. So anywho.
well, anyway, don't forget to tape the next one because,
Oh, shoot, I'm just gonna stop recording. Darn it.
well, hey, we got another